with your teacher friends.
Hi, it's Heather here.
And Lydia, this time with an engineering activity which highlights the importance of engineering in our lives. Now, engineers are always hard at work making our lives better, whether it's connecting people by building bridges between islands or connecting people by sending telecommunications satellites out into space. But many would be surprised to learn that engineers have a role to play in making this world a more inclusive one for people with disabilities. There are many materials you can choose from to be conducting this activity.
And in this activity, we are going to be the engineers. You and your students are going to be the engineers, helping to make sports more accessible for people with disabilities. So as engineers, we need to look at the products. So that's the equipment that we use in the sports. And we also need to look at the systems, so the rules.
That's right.
And we're going to have to think about redesigning. For some things, we'll need to redesign the products or the equipment, and some things we'll need to redesign those rules so
Right.
that we can have more people participating. Now, we're not going to run through us actually doing those activities here, but we thought we'd like to share with you some of the amazing engineering designs that are helping people in parasports these days. So we'll go through quickly two examples. So the wheelchairs that we see,
Right.
when we're watching, a lot of kids, the same as us, might be exposed to all of these different things when they're watching Commonwealth Games or Paralympics.
That's right.
And I can see two really different styles of wheelchairs there. So when I watch the racing wheelchairs, one's going around the track or in the marathon, then I can see that those wheelchairs are really nice and light, and they've got that extra bit leaning out the front and the little wheel out the front
Yes,
there.
I remember that. Yes, I've noticed that.
Especially those marathon wheelchair races that have to push and push and push for ages and ages. But then I compare that design to the wheelchairs that I see in wheelchair
Basketball or tennis.
and wheelchair rugby
Okay,
as well.
rugby.
And those chairs, some of those are really nice and low to the ground. They've got wheels that are kind of slanting in. Some of them even have a little extra wheel at the back so that they don't tip over. They want to be very stable.
And they look really easy to maneuver as well.
Oh, definitely, yes, because if you're doing a big around the track, you don't need to turn corners as much.
No.
So we can see the difference there just in the design of those wheelchairs, and they will be different to wheelchairs that you see that people are using in their everyday life.
So Heather, what are some design changes that have to be made to the rules of the game to make it more inclusive?
Yes, so change to the system there. So one example that you might have seen is in wheelchair tennis, where in tennis, usually you're only allowed to have the ball bounce once and then
only
you have
once.
to hit it back. In wheelchair tennis, the ball can bounce twice, even though they've got extra maneuverability in those chairs.
Because it'll take time for them to get to the ball.
Yeah, so that's very helpful to have changed that rule part there. It's been redesigned.
So how would this lesson look like in your class, Heather?
Well, there's many ways that we could approach this. So if we were still talking about robots, we could talk about the different sensors, those parts that we had on the robots,
Yes.
and how if one of those is not working, what other sensors we could use. We could also think about a game or a sport that we like to play a lot at our school, maybe something like table tennis.
Yes.
And think about, could we try and redesign that, the rules or the equipment?
That's right, especially for students who perhaps have low vision or have come to school with a broken arm. How would
or
they be able to change the rules?
Maybe
or-
people who can't move around as much, we might have to sit down and play sports like they do with the sitting down volleyball.
I wonder what kinds of questions and scenarios your students will give you in order to make changes to these sports.
It'll be really great for the children to put themselves in the position of some of these other athletes with different abilities to try and find the solutions there and help come up with great ideas to make the whole world more inclusive for everybody.
Absolutely, we're all for being inclusive.